Hey guys, and welcome to the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report presented by Angelo DePaola, the Coastal Connection with eXp Realty. The first podcast to bring you the local inshore, offshore, and onshore fishing report, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. All right, guys, I am your host, Butch here again this week. And before we jump into the report, we got a really cool opportunity for you. We have partnered with AFCO, and they are offering all of our listeners a free sun protection mask with any purchase of AFCO products. They make a ton of great products for all types of anglers. All you have to do to get the coupon code is text the word fishing to 314-665-1767. Again, just text the word fishing to 314-665-1767 to subscribe to our email list, and we'll send you the promo code via email. All right, guys, we have a great Alabama saltwater fishing report lined up for you this week. But first, let's take a few minutes to check out a few of this week's great sponsors. This week's Alabama saltwater fishing report is brought to you by Sportsman's Marine. Sportsman's Marine has an extensive tackle selection of anything that local anglers need for saltwater and freshwater fishing, as well as boating accessories. They have the largest selection of the slick lure in Mobile and Baldwin County. They have AFCO, Pelagic, and Saltwater Fanatics apparel along with other local brands. Go check out their Edgewater, Wellcraft, and Vecsey lines of boats. They offer engine services with 5-star Yamaha and Mercury mechanics. Also, if you're looking for a street-legal electric golf cart, go check out their Patric golf carts. Sportsman's Marine on Highway 98, and they also have a downtown location next to Mr. Jean's Beans in Fairhope, Alabama. And also brought to you by Mallard Bay Outdoors. MallardBay.com is the Airbnb-style marketplace for discovering and booking your next guided hunting and fishing adventures. The Mallard Bay platform was built by sportsmen for sportsmen. Their mission is to help expand access to affordable and successful hunting by connecting you with verified outfitters across the United States. You can browse trips and prices by state or species, select the dates you'd like to go, message outfitters, and secure your dates all from one platform, MallardBay.com. Not sure where you want to go yet? Reach out to them on Instagram or Facebook, and they can help you find your dream hunt. All right, folks, I am your host, Butch Theory. Welcome back to the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report. I am joined today with co-host Angelo DePaola, the Coastal Connection. What you say over there, Cap?
Oh, man, I mean, it feels a little like summer after like a month of low humidity and no rain. We had a little bit of rain, high humidity this morning. It almost made you want to go out and chase a triple tail or tarpon or something.
Yep, definitely a little sticky out this morning. Hopefully it's going to get a little less humidity again after this little front we're getting. But yeah, I was surprised at how much rain we got this morning, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Hope it doesn't mess up, man, the water here in Fowl River and Mobile Bay and kind of everywhere I've been. I got to take my little boat out Friday, and man, the visibility was insane. The water has been beautiful everywhere I've been. So I hope it doesn't mess any of that up.
Dude, let me tell you, I was over at my dad's house on Mobile Bay yesterday evening, and I don't know if it was like the full moon, what it was, but I've never seen so many like bay anchovies. Like if you shine the light on the water, it was thousands of them. I mean, like we had like just a little dip net, like for getting bait out of your bait well. Yeah. It was like taped to a piece of like bamboo. And you just stuck it in the water, you pulled up 7 or 8 of them.
Wow.
I didn't see anything eating them, but I've not seen like that much bait in a while. There's mullet everywhere. It's like that classic fall fishing is starting to settle in.
It definitely is, man. Ton of bait everywhere. Like you say, Friday morning on the way out, I wasn't sure if I was going to have to, stop at the ships with some sabikis and catch some hardtails or those sardines or whatever's biting. But man, we came onto the Fowl River Bridge, headed out, and it was just acres and acres and acres of pogies and 2 throws in the net. We blacked out both live wells. It was awesome. It was about 55 degrees. There was that mist on the water. It was super fall feeling, and it was epic. We were rolling out, 40 mile an hour, and you needed a hoodie on. It was chilly, man. It was a perfect day.
Oh, yeah. What did y'all do? Did you catch anything?
Yeah, man. We stopped by the ships, caught 4 ling, killed 1, botched a gaff on another one. I was up in the tower driving, so I was not involved in the lost fish, but the circle hook just popped out. You know how that goes. That's part of it. But man, we had a great day. Caught a limit of snapper. Snapper fishing was tough. We tried to stay within. I didn't try to stay. I had a couple numbers in close. It was I could not get a decent snapper to bite. And I heard it's been tough out there, on the close end stuff. And man, there was 3 or 4 that I went to that, it's usually you put down a live pogie or pretty much anything, and you're going to catch, 5 or 10, 15 pounders. And I could not get a decent snapper to bite. I don't know what the deal was.
Man, you know what? I just think that stuff inshore this time of year, there's just so much pressure on it.
Oh, yeah. It's been beat up good stuff for sure.
Yeah, I ran down not this past weekend, but the previous weekend. Listen to Joe on the Northwest Florida Saltwater Fishing Report talk about the guys catching the sailfish off of kayaks.
Yeah.
Well, it is a time of year that like that usually does start happening, and I'll tell you, it's been interesting to me this year. Like, there's not been near the amount of bait on the front beach along the Florida Panhandle or Alabama Gulf Coast. I mean, usually, especially this time of year, it's just balls of LYs and cigar minnows and hardtails. And I mean, I saw 3 bait balls all the way to Navarre, and we crawled around with some just ballyhoo and hooked a king mackerel. It was slow fishing though down that way.
Yeah.
So, but it's fishing.
That's
Bad
right.
day on the water is better than a good day at the office sometimes.
Amen to that. What was the water like down there? Was it still pretty?
No, not like you'd think. I mean, it didn't look much different than the water did here. It's so weird. I'd figure with the lack of rain we had, usually you get this really, really clear water and a little bit higher salinity. It just never materialized. I mean, it's been clear. A buddy of mine, I mean, he was out a few days after I was out, and I don't know how I didn't see any of this. But they saw about 1,000 tarpon push through heading back to the east. But
wow,
no bueno on the bites.
Yeah, I'm sure they got lockjaw this time of year.
Yeah, I think they're moving like it's 6 knots and with one thing in mind, to getting to wherever the heck it is they're going.
Yep, getting out of Dodge. What are you guys seeing over there in Orange Beach, Gulf Shores? Kind of just all along the coast. I know you sell pretty much everywhere. What are y'all seeing as far as real estate goes right now?
I mean, we literally just kind of pulled up the numbers this morning, and it's interesting. Transaction count is down about 30%, which is like a precursor to kind of what you would think a downturn in the market was. Orange Beach was days on market was up 208%. So we're starting to see a slowdown. But with that being said, prices were still up 4.3%, not just year over year, but from August to September, and they were still up. I can't remember the exact number, but it was like 8.9% year over year. So I guess what I'll tell anybody that's kind of in the real estate market and you're looking to buy, well, rates are up pretty significantly. And if just be picky, find what you want, make an offer that you think it's worth it. Don't fall in love with it. I think that there will be more stuff hitting the market, and that's just conversations we're having. And if you're a seller, I don't think the market's going to get better. I know the data is playing out. The numbers data as far as prices is not playing out that way. But when you look at days on market being up 208% and transaction count being down 30%, those are the precursors to lower prices. The only saving grace I would say is that cost to build is still up, which means any new houses are going to cost more. I don't see that going down, especially when you consider, the pool of the labor force and material pool to refix all that mess down in southeast or southwest Florida. I mean, that's going to be massive amounts of labor, and material is going to be down there. So, but I would say, take a look at it. Don't be I don't know anybody that's overly aggressive on the buy side, and that's fine. At some point, interest rates will go down. So if you have to buy with some higher interest rates because you find what you love, or you're just, you're in a primary residence and you're buying, they will go down and you can refinance out of it. Go do an ARM product, and there'll be an opportunity down the road to have a lower payment. Yeah, that's the real estate market in a nutshell. I wish I had some kind of detailed thing, but that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a pullback. I think it's important to have a professional that's keeping an eye on it, and that's going to keep an eye on your best interest. It is right now we're in a period where there's a lot of charlatans that are out there selling real estate, and they don't necessarily have your best interest at heart, especially if they got to pay their mortgage payment. So we're chugging along. And look, I would say this. Anybody that you talk to in the real estate market, like what you're really getting outside of their knowledge is like, what are they doing to foster relationships? And I just think about what we do. I mean, right now, Elizabeth in my office is setting me up 5 to 6 like break breads, dinners or lunches or coffees or cocktails with somebody. So I'm having contacts with lots of people, understanding their mindset, understanding what may be on the market that can be bought that isn't necessarily on the market. And so you're kind of getting a Rolodex of somebody. When I think a lot of that kind of is really internal office stuff. But like as a buyer or a seller, having somebody that's tuned in, not just to the numbers of the business, but like the emotional state of people that are in the business. I mean, I just think that's key and it's invaluable. And not a lot of people do that. I don't think anybody does that on the level that I do that.
For sure. And yeah, you're well entrenched in the community. And like you say, you know what's going on from the inside. And that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, we always appreciate your real estate updates. We have an awesome fishing report lined up this week. I'm pumped, ready for some cooler temperatures. The opening of bow season is this weekend. I'm pretty excited about that. Got some nice deer on camera. We're going to talk to Captain Patric Garmeson. We're going to talk to Captain Delynn Sigler on the offshore. And we're going to talk to Chris Vecsey over at Sam's and see what's going on over there. Go ahead and get into this thing, man.
Man, that sounds like a lineup. I cannot wait to hear what these guys have to say.
All right, Angelo, let's head on down and get our first report of the day. Let's see what Captain Patric Garmeson's doing with Ugly Fishing. Welcome back to the show, Captain Patric. How we doing today, buddy?
Man, I thought y'all lost the number, but here I got a text saying invite to the show, so I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, it's been a little while, man. Been busy season. You've been running, and you've been yinning, and we've been yanging. Oh
yeah, man. It's just part of it, man. Got to get them schedules lined up, but we're good. Right now, after last night's baseball game, we pulled off a win. I feel like I'm a better fishing or a baseball coach than a fishing guide after today's fishing trip.
Got a W last night and then a not so much a W today.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, and that's been kind of the theme for the last couple weeks for me. Hit a lick, have a good trip. Then you go through the paces thinking everything's shaping up. And like for instance, this morning, Brian's first two casts had big blow ups on top water. We're like, all right, this is shaping up real nice. And I grabbed a slick and started throwing it a little bit and had a couple of whacks on a regular slick and caught a couple of little probably 12-inch little trout specks. And man, we had a few more. I think he had a couple more blow ups on top water. I had a couple more on the slicks, and it just didn't feel like it was coming together. So we started making some moves, and we fished on both sides of the bay. We fished all throughout the Delta. I can at least give you a good water quality bait report on the Delta, and there is beautiful water all the way. We went all the way to Gravine Island, cut over to 12 Mile Island, back down all throughout the Delta system, and the water is gorgeous. Beautiful, clean water, bait everywhere. Blakely, Appalachia rivers seem to have a tremendous amount of bait. There's a good bit in raft. Birds kind of working periodically all over. Did not see any shrimp hitting the surface. All the bird activity we saw was on little shad or pogies. But anyway, they're small bait fish that were coming to the surface. So for what that's worth, I'm optimistic on what we're seeing. Why the fish weren't cooperating for us today and several days, been going forward on the Delta fishing. I don't know. I don't really have an answer for it, because especially with this front coming through, I thought for sure we were going to have some fish really fired up. First bit of cloud cover, rain, just changing conditions that we've had. And anyway, not so much for us. We didn't land on the right school of fish today. But other than that, carrying some shrimp anytime I can get my hands on some, fishing around some structure. We're finding, if we find a single sheephead, black drum, redfish, flounder, anything like that around some like rocky or concrete or anything like that, man, it's a very good chance you're going to find all of those species in that same region. And some of those bites are pretty good, like where you can pull down in some shallow water and just keep slinging some shrimp and keep the rod bent and catch some nice quality fish. They're not everywhere, but if you go through the motions, fish some of these jetties and breakwaters and different things like that, you can I promise, if you find a single fish and stop and fish that area thorough, you're going to have a lot of shots at a bunch of fish. So that's been a lot of fun for us. And then some of these smaller tidal rivers are starting to show some fish. We fished Fish River, Magnolia River, some in Bon Secour. It's not like on fire or anything, but there's some redfish and speckled trout and white trout to be caught in a lot of those places right now. So decent overall.
Doesn't sound too terrible.
Patrick, it sounds like you covered everywhere.
That's what I was thinking too. I was watching his gas meter go down the whole time he was talking.
I went here, then I went here. I mean, you were in Baldwin County, Mobile County, the Delta. And it was interesting. I saw the same thing yesterday. There was just bait everywhere. I've probably never seen so many bay anchovies in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But and mullet everywhere, but we didn't catch any fish either. I mean, are we just not like quite in the fall pattern yet? Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times, I bet if you go back and listen to a lot of our October, late September through mid-October, even all the way through October, a lot of times if you don't land on a good quality redfish bite or sheephead or flounder to really be excited about what you did over the course of the day, a lot of times speckled trout can leave you coming home with an empty bag and scratching your head in frustration. And someday, you'll get these flash in the pan bites where it just comes together. But I think there's just so much. I think fish do so much moving this time of the year than actually, positioning themselves for feed and for fattening up for that winter time. I just think that there's just moving a whole lot, going from one place to the next for whatever reason. They're just not stopping and just making any place, not staking their home in any one place just yet. Talked to Rutland yesterday or day before, and he went through the motions in Dog River in several areas a couple mornings ago, and he basically had a very similar result that I did in the Delta, just a lot of nothing. So, And he was saying the same thing as far as bait and water quality and everything looking good. So, man, I think it's painful when you're right in the middle of it and you're trying to make these guys bite, but it's going to happen overnight. We're going to be saying, man, it's awesome. It's fall. It's great. Wonderful. But
it's hard getting there. It's painful getting there.
Yeah, it's not quite there for me anyway. And from talking to other guides, it's a lot of us kind of in the same boat where we're happy for what we get right now. And I think a lot of our anglers that have a little diversity for, when you're going out, then you shouldn't totally bomb, but, it is possible.
Patrick, do you think this full moon's got anything?
I guess it was kind of weird. It kind of felt like the fishing was worse the 2 or 3 days leading up to the full moon, which is in typical fashion, like if someone asked me, hey, when will be a good moon phase to kind of put a trip together, I would tell them to err towards the side of, the approaching full moon versus the 2 or 3 or 4 days behind the full moon. And fish didn't seem, all the fish seemed to bite a little bit right after the full moon. So I don't know. October full moons have never really bothered me before. I don't think, I don't think that they're, it's not like a July or August full moon. Those can be just an absolute death sentence to a lot of fish bites, but I don't know. I don't have a great answer for you on that one, Angelo, other than just my observations.
I look at it, and I'm not being a great inshore guy. I mean, I was like, we had these fishing in between these fronts. You had full moon. You look like you had good current.
Baits everywhere.
It bait everywhere. I mean, what the heck? Why didn't these fish get the freaking memo?
Telling you.
I don't know.
Maybe after this front, it'll shape up a little bit.
I think so. But, I've talked to guys So I don't know if my listener or if our listeners know this or not, but I do a little fishing report on a TV show called Let's Fish TV every week. And I have to reach out to guys from the Mississippi and the Georgia coast, Georgia having, being on the Atlantic coast, totally different fishery than us. Everybody's kind of singing the same tune. They're a lot of the guides and that I'm getting reports from are still putting a little focus on some bull reds and jacks and line stretchers and saying that the inshore bites are not quite coming together yet. So it's not a Alabama problem.
Right. Doesn't seem too regionally specific necessarily.
No, because at one point I was starting to believe that all the sail cats in the bay ate all the fish that we were catching.
That's funny.
And I'm not taking that one now. Like that one's still that theory is still in play because there's still a bunch of sail cats around. But yeah, that one's still in play. That the sail cats ate all the fish until we start seeing them show up really in big numbers. Then I'll back off of that theory.
Well, man, maybe after this front, things will kind of even out a little bit. Even on Thursday and Friday, the water temperatures were getting down to near about 70. What you've been seeing where you are?
Yeah. It's kind of weird on the in the Delta. There were some areas where we saw 71, 72, all the way up to like 75. And I don't recall which system had the warmer waters, but I did see some different ranges. But it's all in the mid to lower 70s everywhere I've been fishing. I want to say that one morning we actually saw 69 degrees somewhere, but it was just kind of a temporary low until the sun got up, and then it came back up to 70 or 71 degrees.
Yeah, one of those chilly mornings.
Yeah, I will say this though, when we are, it doesn't really matter what fish species that we're targeting. A variety of lures and bait is still pretty damn important. Even just diversity in your colors. Like if you're gonna get on the bandwagon with the slick juniors, like a lot of us have already, don't just hunker down on one color. If there's two or three of you fishing, one of y'all throw the Ozark Shiner, which has been an incredible color for me as far as just about anything that bites that would bite at that type of lure is eating that color. But that and the Mad Mullet, the Swamp Thing, those have been three really good colors. But man, you can throw in the same spot, whether you're fishing for flounder or trout or redfish, and you are getting some of those bites. It seems like they wouldn't eat the same color on two consecutive casts. So mixing those colors up, mixing the bait profiles up, maybe even throwing a big slick right behind, throwing a slick junior, or maybe throwing something with a paddle tail or something like that. And I think what that's telling us is that when we are around fish, there is so many different types of bait that they're feeding on that's the deal. Like there's some fish that are keyed in on the bay anchovies, and some that are on the shad, and some that are on the pogies, and some that are on the finger mullet. And I think you got to kind of throw the tackle box at them right now to really up the ante. Because we have had some days where we've had a live shrimp go, have a popping cork with a live shrimp, one with a voodoo shrimp, one with a slick junior, one with a little slick, and everybody catch one fish, and nobody caught two. And then you move to another area and only a live shrimp got bit, or only a voodoo or whatever. And so that would be a pretty good tip for anybody that's going over the next couple of days.
I think that's a great tip, man. That's definitely writing that over here for what did you learn. I feel like that's pretty much spot on as far as I think you're right. That's why you need the big variety right now. Because like Angelo was saying, all kinds of different bait and a bunch of it. I mean, I saw, like Angelo was talking about those bay anchovies, and in my lights at night, there's been pogies. There's been, 10 different bait species. So I think that definitely makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Cause it's a buffet in the water. So we got to give them a buffet of lures or bait choices and to try to maximize our catching. That's about all I got on that. But I'll tell you one other thing that I was, as far as information that I've gathered this week, is it sounds like the bait shrimpers that were catching bait in the ship channel, they've just about quit catching bait or shrimp of any kind over there. So that tells me the stuff that was in the Mobile in the main ship channel has already moved up into the Mobile River, out of the range of where they can catch shrimp. The Tensas River, it sounds like the same thing has happened there, and the Blakely River, they've been shrimping in there, and it sounds like their catches are going down in there as well. So it sounds like all of these shrimp are pushing up these rivers. So it's about, it's about to be just chock full of it in the Delta right now.
Good news, man. Anything you've noticed on the tides? I think we pretty much covered anything else. Like as far as, people going this weekend, have you been seeing anything in particular that people should hone in on or stay away from?
I think I mentioned this the last time I was on. I really feel like probably the last hour of the falling tide seems to be some of our most productive times. Like when the tide is still moving at full volume, to right when it starts to slow down a little bit to where it almost stops. We've seen some pretty good success there. And then right when it flips and starts to come back in, we've been catching some of our bites have been improving, and when that flip happens. And I think a lot of our flounder here recently have actually been coming right when it flips and starts coming back in. So something to think about if you don't have time to be out there beating the water up right at daylight. Take a look at when that tide's going to be where you want to go fishing, and try to make it maybe 2 hours before that low tide period, and give yourself about a 4-hour window to fish right through that tide change. And that might be your best bet.
Yeah, man, I can definitely reiterate that as well. My buddy Luke came in from Virginia, and I picked up him and Admiral Shellfish Richardoni over there on Thursday, and we got out just as the NOAA.gov, the red curve was starting to come up, and we couldn't get away from the redfish. We caught a flounder right off the bat, and could not get away from the redfish for about the next 2 hours. So that definitely adds up there. There might be something to that.
Yeah, that's definitely worth watching and worth noting. I know a lot of times, like whenever if I'm going fishing just for the fun of it, I didn't have a charter plan or something. If I'm not able to get up and go right out of the gate, right at daylight, then I try to pick a time like that when that tide's going to change and put me in a window when there should be a bite going to happen, and I don't have to dedicate a whole day to fishing. I can just go out there and beat around for that little bit of time, and should be able to get some bites out of it.
I like it, man. That's an awesome report. That's some great tips for our listeners for the upcoming weekend and just for the upcoming fall in general, man. If folks want to get up with you and book a trip, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Best thing, go to my website, uglyfishing.com. And then if you got any questions or you don't see any availability on my website, you need a trip, give me a call, or actually better to text me at 251-747-1554.
Awesome, man. We appreciate it as always, buddy. We look forward to hearing from you next time. Be safe out there.
All right. Thanks a lot, Butch. Have a good one, Angelo.
You do the same, man.
All right, folks, that was an awesome inshore report from Captain Patric Garmeson with Ugly Fishing. You guys take a quick break and check out a few of this week's sponsors. That segment was brought to you by Killer Dock. As anglers, we put a lot of time, money, and passion into fishing, but most of us do not have a fish cleaning station that we are proud of. Many of us are suffering from dock dysfunction. A rotten table with rusty metal, this is just no good. But the dock enhancement that we've all been waiting for is finally here. Killer Dock uses marine-grade aluminum to make fabulous fish cleaning tables and stunning canopies that will keep us out of the sun. Killer Dock combines durability, function, and design to uniquely upgrade your entire dock experience. Visit killerdock.com to see more. And also brought to you by MB Ranch King. MB Ranch King hunting blinds and feeders are built to last, right here in the USA. With durability and convenience in mind, MB Ranch King's maintenance-free blinds are constructed with high-grade steel and come in a variety of sizes to meet any hunter's needs. They offer high-quality, easy-to-use corn and protein feeders that can be filled with both feet on the ground. Call Kevin today for more info or a quote at 205-807-2937. MB Ranch King, built in the pursuit of perfection. All right, man, let's head on down and get our offshore report of the day. We're going to head on to your neck of the woods. Let's see what Captain Delynn Sigler's up to. What'd you say, Cap? Pretty good, man. Got a little rain. Looks like we got some rain on our seed up the country. So hopefully we'll have some deer for this weekend.
Man, I'm at
the camp right now.
I'm like, it's super interesting to hear your report. I feel like every time we get you on here, it's just like
gold.
Super cool story of what's been biting.
Yeah. So speaking of super cool story, you were kind of telling us a little bit about your last trip, something I've never even heard of anybody doing before. So kind of tell us about that special catch you had.
Well, I'd like to take all the credit saying I'm the best captain in the whole world, but I promise you it was 100% pure luck, zero skill involved.
And that's okay sometimes too, right?
Yeah, it's we caught our jacks, caught a limit of jacks, and I said, all right, guys, no big baits. Let's run small baits now. We'll just try to catch some scamp, and then we'll finish up our limit snapper when we get done. And fishing, little tiny cigar minnows, and the guy was fishing. I put it on his hook, so I know a little 3-inch butterbean hardtail, and he drops to the bottom, and he bows up, and the line starts going out. And I was like, well, you got a shark or a tuna or something crazy. And he comes up about 100 yards, and it's, a 350, 400-pound blue marlin just cutting the rug and carry on. And an hour and 45 minutes later, we get him up to the boat and get our hands on him, get lots of good pictures, and pet her and turn her loose.
Man, that's incredible. How deep were you fishing?
350.
That's incredible.
It was our deep drop of the day.
What kind of rod and reel were you able to get that marlin to the boat? I mean, yeah, I would have been wrecked on most of the stuff that I use for scamp fishing, I would have to think. Yeah,
we were using a Talica 25, and because we were just jack fishing and we didn't change anything up, we just switched baits. So we were using a straight 100-pound leader, and just 12-aught Mustad commercial grade circle hook. Just like I said, just all luck, no skill involved.
That's incredible.
We run her down. I think it was 2.6 miles from where we hooked her to where we actually got our hands on her and had her and turn her loose. So it took us a little while, hour and 47 minutes, 45 minutes, something like that. So it took a little while, but we got her up there.
Delynn, what
we
size?
Were running 16 pounds of drag.
What size hook were you using?
In hooks, there's no standard size for hooks. So a 9-aught could be the same size as a 14-aught, even in the same manufacturer. So I use the old silver commercial grade hooks, and I don't know the number.
I know which one. I know what you're talking about. So they're pretty small, and the gap between the shaft and the point is it's not very big either.
It's not, but I bend it out just a smidgen, so just a little bit, so that you can pass your thumb through there pretty easy. I don't want it too big, but not too small. I think it's a little bit small, so I always bend it out just a little bit.
And that's an incredible story.
It's just luck. It's just all luck. You know how fishing is.
That's right. I'd rather be lucky than good any day. I say it all the time on here.
Right place, right time. That's for sure.
That's right, man. Well, you said you got your limit of AJs, and I saw a picture that I'll definitely post on the podcast social media this week. There's some giant amberjack, man. What's been the ticket for those guys?
Okay, the ticket for amberjack right now, in my opinion, are those big greenback herrings that are offshore. We last 4 trips pulled up there to 1 or 2 spots and catch all you want. They're good size. They're not giants, but they're, we had a 78 pounder the other day. We had a 69, 70, and a 73. So they're nice jacks, but they're not giants. But those herrings are the ticket. It's instant on. You don't have to use long leaders. A 6-foot leader is plenty. It doesn't matter what size, whatever size leader you want, 100 pounds, 200 pounds, it doesn't matter. They'll bite it. But they're not wanting rubies very much, and they will hit the big hardtails, but the herring is just the immediate on. As soon as you get down, you're on. So that's what the amberjacks are biting for me.
That's one thing I remember about last time we had you on when I was on here. You were just saying, hey, you need a lot of different kinds of baits because they're just kind of biting. different things at different times. And it's interesting to hear you say that, like, right now they're keen on those greenbacks. I just always wonder what causes a fish to not asking the question. It's just interesting that a fish would shift from, like, say, a hardtail, which is pretty regular offshore, to, a greenback that you don't necessarily see out there all the time.
Yeah, I don't know what they're thinking, but we've been getting bait fishing's been really good. So we've been spending about an hour and a half a morning getting all kinds. And actually, where I've caught my jacks, several spots are they're loaded up with jacks. I told two friends of mine about it. Both of them went by there. Neither one of them got a bite, but none of them had herrings. All they had were hardtails and ruby lips. And they said they were there. We could see them, but they won't bite. And I said, we've left them biting every time we go by there.
Wow. You having to run a long ways for those guys? You going down super deep?
Yeah, pretty good ways. I haven't found anything close. I got one spot that's at about 36 miles that's got a lot of them. You catch all you want. But other than that, all the rest of them are 40, 50, 60 miles out. So, and there's some of them are public rec, some of them are private. The one that's in close, it's private.
What about the big grouper? I saw a real nice gag, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was 40.8, I think. He's pretty decent. We've had one over 40 or right at 40 the last several trips. So there's some big gags around. Just luck. Same thing. We were scant fishing, and actually, the last fish of the day, he caught, I think, a white snapper. And he goes, "You think I should put that back down?" I said, "We're done. We've got a limit of big snappers, limited jacks. We've caught a blue marlin. Why wouldn't you put him back down?"
That's right.
So I said, "I see a big fish down there. He's down there. I see a big fish." I said, "I don't know what it is. Could be a big jack or a big snapper or something. But he's big. I can see him." And I hooked him through the nose. He dropped him back down, and he caught that fish. So
that's incredible.
Yeah, at the end of the day, what do you got to lose? I mean, why not run a big bait?
Yeah, you've already got a win. You say you see that fish. Yep. What kind of machine are you running on that boat?
We run Garmin's on this one, and I'm not sure of the number, but once you look at them for so many years, you can tune them. Some are better than others. I've had some little 600-watt machines that read amazing, and I've had some 1,000-watt machines that read terrible. But ours read pretty well. You just got to keep playing with them till you figure them out.
Yep.
But yeah, you can see them. You can see them. Same way with the jacks when we were fishing. Drop down, stop right there. All right, next guy, I see you going, you drop. I can see they're sinking their bait going down, and I can see the jacks. So as soon as they get, 10, 20, 30 feet above the jacks, I just tell them stop right there, and the jacks come up and bite them.
That's incredible. So a bunch of nice scamp, too. What's been the ticket with those fellas?
They're hard to come by. They're pretty tough. Tommy Holmes had 14 Friday, but he said he fished pretty hard for them. They're around, but they're only in certain spots.
Seemed like that's exactly what I was going to say. It seemed like earlier this year, spring and early summer, man, they were everywhere, and lots of pictures of them. You were smashing them, and a bunch of the guys over here were smashing them. Maybe they're just a little beat up,
They are. That's exactly what they are. And they're in that shallower water too. You catch a lot of them in that 200 and 190, 180 feet of water. Some really big, nice ones in the spring, and they're there until about the second or third week of June on average, and then they leave. Right. So, come July, you go back to the same spot. You're like, man, I've been killing them here. And you go back and you hear crickets chirping. They're gone. So they're there every year until about that time, and then they leave.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you were talking about bait being important, and Angelo and I were talking a minute ago about how he's been seeing kind of a lack of bait over there on the beach where you guys fish out of. And you did mention that you were catching some a decent amount, kind of out and spending a lot of time on catching them. Any ticket to where the bait has been, or is it just super hit and miss?
I think it's been good compared to all the fresh water we've had this year. We've had so much fresh water, and that's very frustrating. It runs the bait off. But I've been starting at 35 feet of water. But starting in September, you start getting those little tiny cigar minnows, which I don't care a whole lot for. They work great for small scamps, but the bigger scamps and stuff, not so much. So I started there, but here lately I've been getting my bigger cigar minnows in that 45, 55, 65 feet of water.
Just on reefs, on bottom reefs?
No, just on open, flat, sand bottom. But now you can get them on reefs also. Now my big herrings, I've been getting on the big public reefs, your barges and your ships and things. You go by there, you have to circle around because they move around so much.
Right.
And circle around till you see them. Have people ready. When I say ready, like sinker in the water, your bell open, you just, as soon as you say go, you just turn it loose and it drops with about a 3-ounce lead. And I tell them, hey, they're about 40 feet down, drop right at boom. And once you hook one, you usually hook 3 or 4 or 5 on one rig. And so you get your 30 or 40 of those in a live well, and you've got something.
That's funny that you said that. I noticed the same thing. Like, you had to be on the herring were on the reefs, but once you just started drifting across the sand bottom, you would catch the cigar menace.
Yep.
Very interesting. Man, that's a great offshore report, and a great I think you gave our listeners a great direction to head this weekend if they're going to be able to get out. We really appreciate you giving the report to our listeners, man. We always enjoy hearing from you.
Absolutely. We'll start on your bait at 35 feet of water. There are some in on the beach, but I've been starting at 35 and then working my way out to 45, 55 for the bigger cigar minnows. Go to your oil rigs or, your big wrecks and catch those big herring. Just circle up because they'll go on the upcurrent side of the wreck and make circles and be ready because they move so fast that you're ready to drop in them as soon as you see them.
Man, that's a great tip. I appreciate it, man. We always enjoy hearing from you. Be safe out there. We look forward to hearing from you next time, Captain Delynn.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
That was a fantastic offshore report from Captain Delynn Sigler over in Orange Beach, Alabama. You guys take a quick break and check out a few of this week's sponsors. That offshore segment was brought to you by Test Calibration. If your diesel has low power or is consuming excessive amounts of fuel, these are common signs that your turbocharger may need to be rebuilt. Don't waste your money online with the cheapest options where you get no support after the sale. Test Calibration has been selling and servicing diesel, turbochargers, and fuel injection systems since 1976. No matter if you're running a diesel in your boat, tractor, or truck, Test Calibration can help you. Contact them at 800-822-0057 or visit them online at testcalibrationdieselandturbo.com. And also brought to you by Fish Bites. For over 20 years, Fish Bites has been helping anglers all along the Gulf Coast and around the world put fish in the cooler. Ask for Fish Bites or Fish Bites Fight Club lures or visit fishbites.com. Fish Bites, made in the USA. All right, man, let's head on down to Orange Beach, Sam's Bait and Tackle. Let's see what Chris is up to. I know he's been in the surf some and he's been inshore. Welcome back to the show, Chris. What you been up to, buddy?
A little bit of everything.
As always, that does not surprise me a bit.
Yeah, I haven't been on. Well, I say a little bit of everything. I have not been offshore at all. So I guess there's a little bit of a lie in there. But as far as like inshore, I've been either on the beach or I've been in my kayak or I've been on the skiff, doing some sight fishing stuff. And it's really been awesome. Obviously today we had a little bit more humid, wet weather, but this last week and a half or so, it's been dry. The water's been clear. Even on the days when it's been a little windy out of the north. I just have to kind of think about where I'm going, putting in, and where I'm going to be fishing, and I still get out there in that chop and do pretty good. So it's been really awesome for the last week.
Well, what you been targeting?
Pretty much redfish, speckled trout. Some the trout bite I have to say is still kind of spotty. I am seeing some really big fish though, moving up into the shallows now. There was a trout I saw probably about this is going probably 2.5 weeks ago. I saw a pair of fish up in Perdido Bay that were probably 30, 31 inches. I'd say both of them were that big. Just big, heavy fish laid up on a grass edge and super spooky. I first threw a fly at them. They ignored it. They started moving off. I threw a weightless fluke at them. They ignored it. I'm pretty sure the only way I would have caught them was with a gill net. So I just kind of moved on from there.
Yeah.
Or should I say they moved on? Yeah, they wanted nothing to do with me. But just starting to see as we're getting in a little bit cooler temps, I'm starting to see more of those big trout move into that shallow water.
That's great to see, man. Yeah, those fish are definitely wise for a reason. They're that big for not being dumb.
Oh, absolutely. I'm pretty sure that if they could talk, they'd probably, like when you throw something at them, they'd probably make commentary about your knots or what kind of leader you use and things like that.
Yeah.
They're like, look, man, we've seen all that before. You can just go ahead and cut that off and put it back in your tackle box.
Yeah. Look at this guy throwing a uni knot.
Yeah.
Seen that one 100,000 times.
I'll tell you what's been really awesome is the amount of big mangrove snapper inshore.
Really?
So like if you're fishing docks right now, in particular, dock hopping for trout and sheep's head and all that, there's a lot of really nice mangroves. And these aren't obviously offshore size mangroves. You're not going to catch a 8 or 9 pounder or anything, but you'll get plenty of them that are going to be just sublegal up to, say, 14, 15-inch fish. But, I mean, you talk about a bonus. If you work these docks real thorough, you should be catching some reds. You should almost certainly be getting some flounder. We've had a really good flounder bite. But to be able to throw, 3 or 4 really nice little mangrove snapper in the box, that's a nice little bonus.
It's funny that you mentioned the mangrove snapper. Like, hey, I've been watching all the guides that kind of fish out of Orange Beach Marina. That's kind of the main thing that they're bringing in. But it seems like every couple of years, I don't know what the water situation has to be, but you get this push of fish. I'm not sure where they go other years, but even off the dock here at the marina, I mean, I was just out here walking around and talking on the cell phone, and I probably saw 30 of them.
Maybe high salinity with the lack of rain, maybe?
It's got to be it. Or I don't know.
Yeah, that's probably has a lot to do with it. But here's the thing is, we were catching a lot of these fish, 3 weeks ago when we still had pretty high water and so that dirty, that low salinity water fishing out of the bay. So, it may be that they've come in, a lot of these fish are coming in on that higher salinity on the incoming tide and then just staying on the structure. Bait wise, there's still a lot of bait near shore, and that's obviously helping. But you're probably right. The high salinity from the last 2 weeks, real dry weather, has definitely not hurt it. But, like Anna's saying, you watch the guides coming in right now. Most of those guys are really trying to hammer on those mangroves right now. And, you look at it from my angle, I'm fishing straight artificials and or flies. And if I'm able to go out and, hit a nice little handful of them every time, I mean, that really gives you an idea how many are around some of these structures. I mean, if you go in there with live bait like shrimp, or what I prefer if I'm going to live bait is either small croakers or little LYs, you can do some real damage on them.
If you were going to fish for those with live bait, what's your ideal setup as far as terminal tackle goes?
Man, if you can find a spot that has a bunch of them, free lining is always probably the best. But I'd say small split shot, about 1.5 feet, above the hook. Go small on your hooks if you can, small circles. You just got to match it to the size of your bait. Now they'll eat a bigger bait than you think. I mean, they will eat a finger mole. They'll eat a small, a croaker that's 3 or 4 inches, but that smaller stuff, like say the LYs or the little 2-inch croakers are just candy for them.
They got some pretty toothy critter, aren't they? What about leader?
I fish 15 or 20 pound leader on them. Their teeth are they're sharp, but they're kind of more cone shaped. So they don't really have an edge on them. They're not really made for cutting, as much as just for grabbing. So most of the time you can get away with pretty light leader on them.
Makes sense for sure. Yeah, that sounds like a great option, especially if that's like you're talking about, put 4 or 5 in a box on a bonus. That sounds great. Those are delicious fish.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
What you've been seeing on the beach?
Pompano bite has been awesome on the beach. Lots of flounder, but it's, as we get into, October's always been like this. You catch a lot of flounder on the beach in October, but a lot of them are going to be undersized fish, especially now that we've gone to that 14-inch. There's going to be a lot that are just kind of hovering right on the line. But it's a numbers game. You just keep hopping from little trough and pocket to the next, and catching a limit of them is easy. I mean, you shouldn't have any issue doing that. Just expect to have to throw back quite a few.
Yeah.
And plastics, there's a lot of different plastics that are working. The most popular, hands down, right now is the fish bites. Their Fight Club baits. There's one their grub, the Dirty Boxer. That's what everybody's asking for. But you can catch those fish on a lot of different soft plastics. Pretty much anything. If it has a good curl tail or paddle tail with some action to it, in white, chartreuse, or even pink, you can catch those fish.
Yeah, man, it's been good to see the amount of flounder around lately.
It is. We had a few really bad years, obviously, and I think, the change of limits no doubt helped a lot. The restocking program on the southern flounder is definitely going to help a lot, although it's obviously too easy to tell what effect we've had from that because those fish are still going to be relatively small. But the change in limits is definitely going to be a big boost.
Yep.
Chris, you're throwing the Dirty Boxer for the flounder. Are you catching any pompano? Just coincidentally, can you kind of jig for flounder and catch some pompano at the same time, or you throwing set rigs? What are you doing there?
You definitely can catch them at the same time. If you're throwing the Dirty Boxer is a pretty big grub. And a pompano will definitely grab it. I've caught pompano on hard baits, top waters, jerk baits, all kinds of stuff. They will eat a big lure, but day in, day out, it's not what you're likely to catch them on. If you fish smaller plastics, like something more compact, like a 3-inch grub or a smaller swim bait, you're definitely going to have a better chance at catching them. Another thing everybody overlooks at throwing for flounder, and something that you can fish in deep water, shallow water, doesn't matter, is just a simple bucktail jig. Like at the 3/8 to half ounce white bucktail, you're going to catch flounder on that, and then you're far more likely to get pompano. Whiting will hit that thing, redfish will hit it, speckled trout will hit it. Just about every. I mean, think about it. What hasn't been caught on a white bucktail jig? I mean, everything.
No doubt.
That
It's like the blue and white islander of
That's right.
fishing.
That's right.
Yeah, it's like you just don't go fishing without at least one of them in the box.
Yep, no doubt. Man, you got me thinking about grub heads a little bit, talking about for flounder and redfish, and it's getting to be the time of the year where we can catch those speckled trout, on the jig heads with the grubs. Do you put any weight to A, color, and B, eyes on your jig head?
I fish. 99% of the time I fish an unpainted jig head.
Yeah.
And if it has eyes, great, I guess. It doesn't matter to me. I fish a lot of, like, my favorite heads to fish inshore are the owner jig heads personally. And probably a close second would be like the Berkeley Fusions, which are a newer one. I like them because of the quality of the hook they've started putting on them. It's really made a big difference. But I fish unpainted lead without eyes, I'd say the majority of the time.
Yeah, I was just curious. I'm kind of leaning toward the same thing. For years you just hear, got to have a red one or a white one or eyes. Gotta have eyes or whatever.
Yeah.
I've been paying way more attention to just the hook as well.
Yeah, I mean, think about like reskirting some of your offshore trolling lures. I'll have somebody bring in their favorite high-speed wahoo bait, and they'll want like a black and red skirt or whatever, and it's got that little bit of like foil on the back and that red line that goes down the center. And I'll have a skirt that's almost identical, but it won't have that red line down the center. And they'll be like, man, I really want that on there. Now you think about it. You're pulling this lure like
20 knots,
15 knots.
Right.
This wahoo is gunning it to get that lure. Do you think he's going to hit the brakes at the last second and be like, whoa, where's the red stripe on that
that's
one?
Right. Not hitting that one. That's funny to think about.
But it all boils down to being a confidence bait. You know what I mean? And if you go fishing with your buddy and you're both using white grubs and he's got a red jig head on and you don't, now he could just be in the right spot. You know what I mean? He may only be 20 feet from you, but he's just, absolutely. But the fact is, you saw him tearing them up on that white with a red head. So guess what you got to have?
Got to have it. Absolutely.
It's just it's a confidence. Yeah, it's a confidence bait. So
yeah, that's a great point.
Yep,
confidence is a lot of it too. Like we always talk about, it's a big deal in your spots and your tackle. You got to have it.
Absolutely. You're not gonna give any lure you tie on if you're not confident in it. You're not gonna give it to. You're not gonna work it the way you should be working it. You're just gonna be kind of lackadaisical, throw it out, and just kind of more or less reel it in. And halfway through the retrieve, you just zip it back in real quick. So yeah, you don't give it its due if you're not confident in it.
Agreed, man. Well, you mentioned redfish and sight fish and some of those guys. Let's walk through that a little bit. What they kind of do in the grass flats.
That's almost too easy. Yeah, grass and just open sand even. Some of the points on the north side of Ono Island right now where it's just open sand. Some of them have some grass edges to them, but a lot of these spots are open sand bottom and you might have some depressions. They really like the depressions, but don't be surprised if early morning you just see a group of, 4, 5, 6 reds just laid up right next to the shoreline, in a foot of water over an open sand. I mean, they're waiting for bait fish that are running that water line, trying to hide along that water line. So they're there low light hours. But you could go right now and fish midday as long as you have some decent water movement and you find areas holding bait. You'll find some redfish, no doubt. I mean, they've been extremely thick. I'm starting to see a lot more sheep's head inshore. I know quite a few of our customers are starting to catch sheep's head, mainly along intercoastal. So that's, as we start getting towards the end of this month, I mean, it's that time to start targeting the convicts. I mean, they're going to be all over the inshore structures, the bridges, and any deeper piers that have good current on them are going to hold a bunch of them.
Yep, they've been talking about that over here too. Our last 2 weeks, I think it started either last week or the week before. Scott Kennedy was starting to catch some, and Patric Garmeson, the old sheep herder, he's been catching a bunch of them over here too. So that's good news.
Yep, absolutely.
Angelo, sounds like you need to be sight fishing for some redfish, man. That sounds pretty epic over there.
I mean, like that, and
I told Angelo if he ever wants to go, all he's got to do is call me or message me, and we'll jump on the skiff and go. I mean,
Well, hey,
Skip
look,
got
let me
for
ask you
last-
this then while I've got you there, because I'm going to take you up on this. What time
All
do
right.
you go in the morning?
A lot of time I don't go in the. I mean, if you're sight fishing them, I need sunlight. So you can sleep in, you can have your coffee, breakfast, whatever. and we'll
You know
go
what I
after that.
have? I actually, Chris, I have like a gift card I got to come bring you for doing that child's the fish learning thing that we did with the kids. And
I have a gift card.
yeah, the club got you one for fishers.
Nice.
So you can take your and I see your wife every morning in the gym. So
Yeah.
now
He
that
likes to go to that. I'm not getting up that early to go to the gym. I'm just not going to do it.
Much rather go fishing that early.
You could give it to her.
Or he could give it to you while you'll go
or
fishing.
I could just go fishing with you.
Exactly.
Well, you could use that as your motivation then to be like, man, I need to give Chris this gift card. Why don't I see if he wants to go fishing?
That's
and then
right. And I'm not giving it to him or his wife until I'm on his boat.
I agree.
Got to.
That's actually a pretty good little like extortion technique there.
It is.
I support it. I would do it.
I support that as well.
I like it.
Yep. Man, that's a great report, Chris. It's always good to hear from you, man. If folks want to get up with you and pick your brain, what's the best way to find you? Come
down here to Sam's Wednesday through Saturday. I'm mostly here in the afternoons and evenings. That's at 27122 Canal Road, or they can give me a call here at the store at 251-981-4245. Awesome, man. We appreciate your knowledge as always, and we look forward to hearing from you next time, man. Y'all be safe out there. Hopefully you can get Angelo on a fish.
I mean, I need somebody.
We'll try. We'll just keep him. If I put him on the fish, though, he's going to expect, like, when you do the cover photo for whatever that week's podcast, he's going to expect that his picture be like the main one.
That's a deal. That is a deal. I can do that. All right, man. Thanks, Chris. Good. We'll talk to you soon, buddy. Thanks again
for having me.
All right, that was an awesome hybrid report from Chris Vecsey over at Sam's Bait and Tackle, Orange Beach, Alabama. That segment was brought to you by Hilton's Real-Time Navigator. The days of heading out and blindly looking for good fishing areas are pretty much over. Don't waste time and money on fuel searching for fish. You need the most recent, highest resolution images to not only know where to go, but where not to go. The knowledge provided by today's technology is critical when planning an offshore fishing trip. Make the choice that professional captains all over the Gulf make and choose Hilton's Real-Time Navigator. The easy-to-use interface and excellent customer service will have you on the fish every time you go. Check them out at hiltonsoffshore.com. And also brought to you by Dixie Supply and Baker Metalworks. Dixie Supply and Baker Metalworks are proud to be your metal roofing headquarters for over 40 years. Save time and money by buying from the most reliable manufacturer on the Gulf Coast. Buy it today, pick it up today. With the addition of their new store in Cantonment, Florida, they now have 8 locations to serve you. Dixie Supply and Baker Metalworks, your metal roofing headquarters. All right, Angelo, you know we got to do What Did You Learn before we get out of here today, man. What'd you pick up from today's show?
Man, like, as much as we always get so excited about September, October fishing, and I still believe it's the best month. I think that, like, that the fishing is humbling, and that, like, no matter what we think they should be doing, they're not necessarily doing. I mean, like, you better be prepared to fish for freaking everything from flounder to pompano to mangroves to redfish and trout to be able to put a box of fish and
bag together. Yeah.
You know, just you better have a lot of rods, reels, and, you know, different things to throw out there.
Yep. Seems like every one of our guys pretty much said that, you know, talking about variety of baits. Captain Patrick was talking about variety of baits, and Delynn too. Those amberjack were really honing in on those greenbacks. Sounds like bait's pretty important right now. And it makes sense, man. Like Patrick was saying, give them a buffet right now. Cause like you and I were talking about, there's a ton of different bait everywhere right now.
Yeah. Well, and you know, the other thing that when we got off the phone or got done interviewing Delynn was he reminded us clear lid and lights for those greenbacks, because man, if you don't have that in there, they just ain't lasting. They just, and I mean, they're not a small fish either. I mean, these things are 5-6 inches long and or longer. Yeah, you're right. He did remind us, hey man, make sure you tell everybody, you know, clear live well lids or a light in there, because they beat themselves up, and when you get there, they're not alive. It's not a good situation. Yeah, I agree with you, man. A couple of other things I picked up was last hour of the falling tide. You know, if you have a job where you have to be there early in the morning or something like that, you know, you don't have to pick, you know, dawn or dusk. You can watch that tide charts and get the last hour. Man, I'll say this. What's very interesting to me on the tides is, like, growing up fishing out of Mobile Bay, Fowl River, Dauphin Island, like we always fish the falling tides, right?
Yeah.
It's the opposite over here in Orange Beach. Like you want the incoming tide. The falling tide pushes out this just dirtier water, and the bait seems to get pushed in with the incoming tide. For Pompano at the jetties, it's been incoming tide, and what I find is, and I'm sure if we had Chris on here, he would say this: if you're going to go sight fishing for redfish on these points and grass flats and sand flats, you need an incoming tide to push some clean water up in.
Yeah, no, definitely.
It's interesting, different parts of our, like, there's not a lot of mileage that separates Dauphin Island from Orange Beach Gulf Shores, but the way you fish the two areas is
way different.
Significantly different.
Yeah, especially depending on the time of the year, can be vastly different. Like right now, I feel like we're getting, two totally different reports. So I kind of like getting the East Shore, the eastern side report from Chris or Scott or somebody like that, and getting one from over here too. That's been working out very well.
The other thing is, and I thought this was very interesting when we talk about what did you learn, that the fact that the guys shrimping in the shrimp channel aren't catching any shrimp. I mean, that just tells me that, like, whether it's next week or the following week, we're going to hear about somebody catching fish up in the Delta.
Yep, they're on the move. And that's what Patrick was saying too. They're on the move.
Yeah. I think maybe the fish are trying to hunt the bait and they don't know where it is, or I don't know how they couldn't know where it is. I've never seen so much of it. I mean, look, while we were all on a break, you were telling me about all the pogies and mullet right out in front of your house.
Yep, it's been a ton, man. Speaking of bait, I also picked that up from Delynn segment too. Talking about starting at about 30. He was pretty specific on starting at about 30, 35 foot of water, looking for those bait balls on the bottom or, in the mid water column, looking for those fish and being ready, like with the sabiki rig, and he's marking them and firing down right there and working his way a little bit deeper.
Well, you know what? Like when Delynn, to me, it really only had the only guy that we had on this week that really had a great fishing report, right? But like we're sitting here going over what did you learn? Like I think you better have variety. Shrimp are probably up in the Delta. I mean, Delynn talking about catching bait. I mean, and the cigar minnows being on the flats and the greenbacks being, on the reefs. I mean, I found that to be true fishing earlier this summer, and I can tell you coming out of the pass and the buoy, and there's just not a lot of bait out there. So,
right. I mean, you got to get creative.
The other thing, and I always, it's one of those things you ever wonder, like, you're like, I got a hunch in my head that like the grouper bite kind of sucks after spring. But Delynn, he's out there all the time. Who knows? He probably has a log, but he was like, get into June, that scamp fishing's we don't know where they go, but it's not as good.
Yep, that's just experience. All that stuff is just experience. And also he was saying, I thought I picked up from Delynn, was also, kind of circle up current on those reefs, like the big barges and stuff. He's been finding those sardines on circle up current and kind of find them off of the reef and catch them that way.
Yeah. So I thought it was, as far as like a report that has like really good data of what you can do to, catch fish and catch bait, it's about as good as one we've ever done.
Yep, I agree. Lots of great tips, man. All right, guys, that wraps up another great segment. Let's take a quick break. Check out a few more of this week's great sponsors. That segment was brought to you by Bucks Island. Bucks Island. They have new pontoon boats, bass boats, bow riders, and aluminum boats for sale. They provide boat service on all kinds of boats, even if they weren't purchased from Bucks. Visit them at 4500 Highway 77 in Southside, Alabama, or give them a call at 256-442-2588. And also brought to you by National Land Realty. If you're in the market to sell your land, check out the fastest growing, most innovative land brokerage in the country. With the largest online presence in the industry, bottom line is that when you market your land through National Land Realty, the right buyers will know your land is for sale. Contact your local national land agent at nationalland.com. Man, Angelo, it's always a pleasure, buddy. I always enjoy co-hosting with you. It's a good time. A lot of good information in this one.
Dude, I agree. I'm going to have to get out with you and Chris and go catch some fish. I need somebody to like break the streak for me.
Yeah, stop working so hard, man. You got to get out there.
I hear you. Well, man, I'll catch you next time.
Absolutely, brother. Enjoyed it.
All right. Thank you, dude.
All right, folks, that's going to wrap it up this week. You guys, please make sure and subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget to text the word fishing to 314-665-1767 to get that free AFCO sun protection mask promo code and also to be added to our email list. And we'll send you the new show each week. You guys keep whacking them. Be safe out there. This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report has been brought to you by Photonus Defense, simply the best in-class night vision systems ever built. Contact them at photonusdefense.com to learn more. Photonus Defense, Masters of Darkness. And also brought to you by Richardoni Family Dentistry. You're going to need a good dentist, so you may as well make an appointment with fellow angler Josh Richardoni. He provides services for all ages and accepts most dental insurances. Call today to book an appointment, 251-342-6672. And also brought to you by Admiral Shellfish. Admiral oysters are available by the dozen at Bon Secours Fisheries, Inc. in Bon Secours, Alabama. From a simple, nutrient-dense appetizer at home or a shucking party with friends, Admiral oysters will steal the show. Follow their adventures on Instagram at Admiral Shellfish Co. And also brought to you by Delynn Marine. Delynn Marine has something for everyone, from small hunting boats, pontoons, as well as bigger bay hybrid boats for the hardcore angler. Go visit them at 34600 Highway 59 in Stapleton, Alabama, or call 251-937-1380. And also brought to you by United Bank. United Bank supports our farmers with financial products and services designed specifically for agribusiness. All loans subject to credit approval, equal housing opportunity lender, member FDIC. And also Foster Contracting, Fortified Roofing Pros. Did you know you could save up to 40% on your homeowner's insurance with a fortified roof? Learn more at fortifiedroofingpros.com or call them at 251-973-9999. Also brought to you by Coastal Conservation Association of Alabama. Check them out at ccaalabama.org. And also brought to you by CCA Alabama. Catch a tagged redfish this summer and win a 2022 Nautic Star 215 bay boat with the Yamaha 150 horsepower motor and aluminum trailer package worth over $65,000 in the inaugural CCA Alabama Star Tournament. Sign up now at joincca.org/star tournament.